Hey, this is Jack, and this video is called Warning. This is how I broke hearts in the past. Hey, I'm Jack Butler, I'm a relationship coach. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Please consider subscribing. I release at least 2 new videos on relationships and personal growth every week. It's kind of real on this channel. Just hit subscribe and then tap the bell notification. So I want some of the pain that I caused myself and other people in the past to be of benefit to you. That's really the intention of this video. One of the phrases you may have heard if you've listened to me before now is I talk about emotionally available, unavailable guys. Emotionally available, unavailable guys. And they can be confusing because they're emotionally available to you, right? I was emotionally available to women. I was available to connect. I was available to go deep. I was available to show up and hold space and support people's experience, kind of be emotionally connected. But underneath that, I wasn't necessarily into the relationship at the level of like, I really commit to this, right? I could be a boyfriend, I could show up over a period of time, but I could be confusing because I still had one foot out the back door in terms of commitment. And this is not an uncommon experience for men, right? It's also why I'm sharing this. This isn't just, this is Jack being terrible in the past. It's like, yeah, oftentimes men and women can have one foot out of the relationship, right? That they're showing up, they're not going anywhere, they're not being unfaithful, they're not cheating. But whether it's like they're ultimately committed to the relationship, there's still kind of a doubt, there's still a, maybe not, maybe there's something better, maybe there's something different, right? So I could be confusing because I might show up with a level of emotional availability that a lot of women weren't used to. They weren't, and they were really excited about a guy being willing to kind of connect with them and go deep and be supportive and attune and be okay with all sorts of emotional expression. And yet at the same time, if we just got right to the heart of the conversation, do I know that I'm here and I'm going to be here ongoing? No, I didn't. And so I'm also wanting to share this with you because I don't want you to have a presumption about where a man stands unless you've had explicit conversation with him, probably more than once, right? So it's not just when we got drunk that one night and we kind of shared our feelings. It's like, can we ongoingly talk about where we stand with one another? And can I want that conversation because I want the sobriety of the truth? Right? Oftentimes in the past, I think that if some of the women I dated had really tuned in, they would have known that I wasn't fully in because we hadn't talked that way. And we weren't making plans in certain kinds of ways. But I don't think there was a willingness to want to engage that conversation. So notice if that's true for you. Notice if a guy isn't leading that conversation, that's good information. And if you are also shying away from that conversation, that's also good information, right? That you don't necessarily feel secure in the connection. You maybe don't want to hear the truth of that. Much better in my experience to get a little bit of pain, step into the truth, and then have the freedom of the truth than have to kind of imagine, fantasize, or just kind of avoid or dissociate from what's actually going on, right? So this can be really hard because my investment strategy in the past was I'm in here, but I'm still noticing if I want to be here. And again, this is true for a lot of guys, and it's also true for a lot of women as well. That the way that they invest is that they might be willing to get really close, really into it, but it's not the same thing as I'm done and I'm committed long term. Now, sometimes that's partly because people can actually take commitment seriously. And that's kind of counterintuitive. It's like they take commitment so seriously that they don't step into it, right? That they really kind of hold off on that commitment. Just notice, you might be more of a person that when you invest in a relationship, you pretty quickly decide this is what you want and then you're in and you go for it. And probably most people don't actually have that investment strategy. So that might have been something that caused you pain in the past. I can remember getting to a certain point and then the real conversation would happen and I would create, shock and dissonance, disbelief, because it's like, oh, I thought you were in because you've been showing up here, or because we have a plan to go away and it's a little bit further down on the calendar, or we've been spending so much time together. But actually, I was holding back on the essence of my experience, which is I just don't know. I'm not definitely no, right? This is the thing where this can be confusing as well. I wasn't a definite no. It wasn't like I was just stringing along, but I wasn't a definite yes. I was kind of hanging out there a little bit in no man's land and doubt, right? And that was also because doubt was a big part of my life. It's less of my life now. That's been part of my journey. But for a lot of us, and men included, doubt, right? I don't know. I'm not sure. Let me see. Let me look. Let me know. Not I'm curious. I'm curious. Let me see. Not kind of openness to unfolding experience, but actual doubt. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm worried. I'm journaling every weekend. Is this it? Do I know? I don't know. I'm not sure. Do I do the right thing? Should I stay? Lots of that. It makes it very hard to know where you really stand because you're basically up in your head. I was disconnected from my own guidance, disconnected from my own sense of knowing. So all of this is just to say, don't subjectify a guy. So don't imagine that you know where he really stands if you actually haven't had that full-blooded and ongoing conversation with him. Don't imagine that he has the same investment strategy with you. Don't imagine that just because he's emotionally available, that he's actually available for partnership, right? He might be, and ideally you want both, right? We don't just want a guy that's, yeah, he's available for commitment, but you ongoingly feel that he's not emotionally available to you. You want an emotionally available guy, right? And it might take a little bit of curiosity and a little bit of unfolding with a guy to actually know who he is. But don't compromise on that. You know, emotionally available, unavailable guy, like if the guy has really struggled to make commitments and has had a lot of relationships, right, which was part of my experience, I had a lot of relationships, but hadn't decided to commit to them, maybe it's going to be different with you. Maybe he just hasn't found the one, but maybe there's also a little bit of something in him that hasn't resolved around how to know what he wants or how to not be in doubt or how to make a commitment. So you can create a little bit of space. Doesn't mean like today I have to know, are you going to be with me? But you're just not in the fantasy. Right? You're not just putting your eggs in a basket that isn't a good decision for you. And just realizing that this guy can be very confusing because he'll show up for you more than some other guys have. And he'll show up as more available and he'll want to have, want to process with you, maybe have conversations, like deep philosophical conversation about relationship and what it is and future and if we had children, what it would look like. He might be able to do all of that, but that's not the same thing as I know I want to have kids with you or I know I want to be with you 5 years from now. Right? So again, if you're someone that deals a bit more on the realist side and you're a little bit less on the kind of intuitive side of intuiting future possibilities, right? Some people are a little bit more in the possibility of things and some people are a little bit more in the realism or necessity of things. If you're over here on this realistic necessity side and you're with someone who's a little bit more on the possibility side, they're going to talk about things that you would not be talking about unless you were actually realistic about them, right? So for you, you don't talk about, well, if we were to have kids one day, what would that look like? Or how would we support them? Or what would they be called, right? For you, like if we're doing that, it's because we're actually on that track of we want to have kids, right? So again, just realize this is where people vary. Right? Some people are much more in, I talk about things because I actually have an intention definitely to do them and I don't really open up the possibilities. Other people talk about a lot of possibilities a lot of the time and they have to talk them out, they have to feel into them to even know if that's a possibility that they want to pursue, right? That can be confusing if you're on the other side of that equation. So I'm trying to take some of my experiences of the past where maybe I've been confused in myself or confusing to women and have you kind of benefit from that. And if there's a broad if there's a broad theme that goes across it, it's actually like slowing down, having real conversations, noticing what your actual intuition is, and not subjectifying the other person, not imagining that you have any idea that because they do a particular thing, it means a particular thing. Just because you would do that doesn't mean that the reason they're doing it's the same reason. And if you can do that, it probably means you're basically in a sober orientation to your relationships, that you don't pretend or imagine you're standing on a firm footing when you're actually not, right? That's the thing that I've seen, and it's such a bad experience even to be on the other side of it, to know that you're now communicating a truth that is really rupturing someone's reality and is probably fucking a little bit, excuse my French, with their sense of trust, right? You don't want to be that guy. I didn't want to be that guy, but I didn't have the tools and capacity to know how to navigate the conversations to sometimes avoid that, or even to know that, oh, because I'm in doubt, I'm sort of imagining the other person's in doubt, whilst actually they might be getting increasingly clear and yes and into the relationship, right? So this is kind of higher level development, is how do you know your experience? How do you differentiate someone else's experience? How do you get to communicate authentically about that? How do you create a safe enough space for a guy that he can bring his truth to you, rather than knowing that actually his truth may devastate you? A lot of guys, if they're feelers like I am, they kind of know that. They kind of know that maybe you don't want to hear the thing that's going to hurt you. And so in some ways they're trying to protect that, but they also may be protecting themselves in the same process, and ultimately no one's getting protected because we're just metabolizing less truth, right? What you want is a relationship where you can metabolize truth together, but from a place of care and sensitivity. Right? Most people, they fall one side or the other. Either like, boom, here's the sledgehammer, give you my truth, don't really care. Facts don't care about your feelings kind of reality. or they're so attuned, sensitive, harmonious, they value harmony so much that they never really tell the truth, and then they go around hurting people. That was me historically. Overvaluing of harmony, not valuing the truth enough, and actually going around hurting people, not because I wanted to, but because I actually didn't have the capacity or courage to do something different. So I apologize for that. That's been part of my kind of guilt, burden, things I've moved through, things that I have learned from and done better with. But I also don't imagine that every guy has done all that development, that you're going to be seeing guys out there who don't find it easy to sit down and name what's real for them, or they're at a stage of their life where they're not even clear what they want, right? And that can be so confusing. Like, guys at different stages of their masculine development are more or less available for making a commitment and a decision. And sometimes actually all they're available is to be your lover and companion. And you've got to realize that a lover and companion isn't your partner. Enjoy it, soak it up, revel in it. But just again, it's like, can you be clear that this thing is not that? You know, and my work is a lot about giving people distinctions, right? Distinguishing, you know, a lover and a companion. You want those elements of friend and lover in a partnership, but lover-companion isn't partnership. There's a different level of commitment, there's a different level of intention. Lover-companion is kind of casual. Lover-companion is I'm enjoying it in this moment and our connection's good. Maybe we're sexual, it's a lovership. Maybe we're romantic, it's a lovership. But actually, I'm not available to step into a committed partnership with you. Now, as a guy, do I have the skills to articulate that? Probably not, right? Maybe I don't even have the life experience to be able to communicate that. So that's why you just being aware that there's these different categories that exist, and you might have to have the self-awareness to say, there's a limit to how much I can be a lover with someone until I'm actually just going to fall in love and want them to be my partner, right? So for some of you, actually lover is not going to be an easy category, because you're like, yeah, if we start exchanging sexual energy or I get really close to you, that's not going to feel good if that doesn't have the commitment that backs it up, right? So it's this kind of commitment intimacy polarity. A lot of times men are more comfortable with certain kinds of intimacy. They don't need to have this commitment behind it. They're kind of like, it's cool, like we're enjoying each other, we're deepening, and they don't necessarily realize the vulnerability of the feminine, that, hey, us being connected in this intimate way where I'm revealing who I am and deepening, I need to know that this is going somewhere. I need to know that you can be counted on. And that therein is the kind of essential conundrum of some dating, right? Which is that guys often want to have intimacy with still their options and not have the commitment. Now, in the mature masculine, we might get, you know, that commitment to being with you and to being monogamous with you and so on and so forth. That actually serves me as well, right? That actually makes me take better care, right? I'm not just taking care of, can we be intimate and yummy in this moment, but I'm actually taking care of you in a longer term view of reality. I'm showing up. And I get that ongoing commitment, there's something about that if I choose it, makes me a better man, right? But that isn't the view that a lot of men are in a lot of the time. Certainly historically, that wasn't the view that I was in. I'm not even saying that's right necessarily. I think there's a kind of maturity that comes online. And for some men that happens early in their life. For some men it never happens. For some men it happens later in their life. For some men they need to run through some serious relationships before they're ready to say, oh, you know what? I actually want to step into something in a more meaningful way. Even that doesn't mean necessarily it's going to work out, but there's not this sense of like, oh, I'm always looking, like, is there something better over there? Like, is there someone that I could connect with more? Is there someone that's going to be more aligned with my mission? There's not that. There's like, hey, I'm here with you, and still, this is going to be real, and we've got to work this out, and this may not always be hard and easy for us. But there's a kind of standing behind what they want that looks different, and your ability to discern that in a man. Some people call that, you know, stepping into king energy, right? I kind of know who I am, I know what I'm about, I know what I stand for, I know what my values are. You being able to discern whether a guy is in that can be kind of useful, and it's not always easy, because a guy himself, I don't think in previous stages of my life I would have been open to people telling me, hey, you're not there in that. You know, maybe I'm still not there. Maybe there's still levels and layers of that I haven't yet experienced. But we're not always aware enough at each moment to know, like, oh, yeah, I'm getting really intimate with this woman, and actually she, and if you don't need this, that's totally fine. So I'm not trying to be presumptuous here, but most women that I've worked with, they actually want a certain kind of commitment to go to a certain kind of intimacy. And as a man, I have to sort of get outside of my own worldview that I may not need that, but I get that you actually need that. And in the fullness of time, I get that there's something that also gives me as well, right? There's a way that improves my sense of freedom to actually know what I stand for and be committed to things. But it takes a little bit of maturing in the masculine. So can you discern that in a man? Can you notice how much he stands by his word? In his other areas of his life, does he have a kind of commitment to things? Does he have a commitment to his family and friends? Does he have a commitment to his work and his mission? Does he have a commitment to even his hobbies in a way that he kind of like shows up and tends to them? You know, is there a backbone of commitment running through his life? Because when there is, it's going to be much easier for you to step in and for him to want to have that with you. So I hope some of my experiences have been helpful to you. If you've liked the approach of this video, I encourage you to go and download my guide. It's called the Real Freedom Guide. And it's kind of a deep dive in what it takes to be more real and free in your relationships and in your life at large. Click the link, it will download immediately into your inbox, and also put you on my email list so you hear of new opportunities and offers. Whenever I open a new program, a retreat or something, it goes out to my list first, so you're going to want to be on that. Click that link, be on my list, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed. This is an awesome community. Just hit subscribe, tap that bell notification, and I will look forward to being with you soon. As always, I'm Jack. Thanks for being here.